A couple years back, I had a Minecraft server. Me and a bunch of old high school buddies, a couple of college friends all mixed in. We coded it, I coded it, where every 20 minutes plus or minus, everyone would randomly swap places. And they were all spread about across the world. And it was really nice. You know, we had our initial base from our earlier server in the middle somewhere. They were all spread out like a bajillion mile radius around it in a circle. And they were all in groups. And so every time they swapped, those groups would randomly change, right? And we had a mod or something on that added proximity chat, which means closer somebody is to another person, the better they can hear them. If you're too far away, you can't hear somebody. And so for that reason, people stuck together in these little groups. And I had all these random structures generated around the world, weird different versions of the buildings they made in our earlier map. And the first few days, they didn't really spread that far out. They kind of stuck to where they were, built a home in our little communities, and these towns started having names, having backstories, having builds and creativity and whatnot put in there. And then over time, people went to venture out. You know, people would randomly swap, not know where they are, had to start a whole new town there because nobody knew they were just over the mountainside from the last one. And this went on for a while. It was pretty fun. There'd be a certain very rare structure that would tell them exactly the coordinates of where in the world they are. And a friend of mine, Jessie, who is an astronomer, used her Python or R or some coding skills to throw in all the coordinates and put it in a map. She was the first to discover they were in a perfect circle. So the quest began. We had to, if we're all in a circle, chances are there's something in the middle. And so they would all venture slowly but surely, forming new towns, going back and forth, forming paths, chatting with each other, sharing stories of what it's like in their lives right now, during what it was like during COVID and such, what everyone's been up to, job stuff, family stuff. And eventually, they did find the middle. She was only about 200 blocks off, 200 meters off, which in the grand scheme of things was almost nothing. I didn't even perfectly align it, so that was brilliant. And that was the end of that. But it was beautiful, It was a nice slice of community there. And we still, everyone still keeps in touch. We just have other things going on. And so, it was my first day at work, and I got pulled into this classroom. First day, I wasn't even in full teacher mode, but I was, getting ready, putting on my best acting face, teaching face, and getting all pumped up to go. I got pulled into a classroom. A student brought a turtle in, and nobody knew what to do with it. This turtle had a name. Its name was Leafy, and he liked leaves. He did not like carrots. The student has had this turtle for 2 years. It was missing its 2 front feet. It was not wounded or anything. It healed over. That was from whatever happened to it a long time ago. Turtles are very resilient. And he was saying all these different things about this lovely, lovely turtle. We don't know what to do with it, where to put it for now, but we do call, the mom, and she says, "What turtle?" Turns out the 2 brothers, one not present, the one with the turtle currently, found this thing out on the school grounds in some of the woods, and they wanted to save it. And because they thought it was injured, because the front 2 legs, again, turtles can survive pretty well with even just 2 of the legs missing. This happened from some wild event from way before, and they were doing fine. But they wanted to save the turtle. It wasn't Leafy, it was Shelly. That's what it was. So they had Shelly in their home for about 2 days over the weekend, and then brought it back to school for class. We did not keep Shelly around. Turtles, first of all, this is a wild animal, so we want to return to the wild. We managed to get info as long as we told them, they weren't in trouble. They were trying to help, gleefully so. And so we found out exactly where they got the turtle from. And turtles, if you ever, find one that's injured and you bring it to somewhere like a wildlife center, you need to tell them where you found this turtle. And because turtles are really good navigators, they can find out exactly where they need to be, but the problem is if they're somewhere they're not supposed to be, they will keep moving towards that destination, keep trying to find where they should be instead of drinking food or water, and have like a 50% chance of dying. So you got to make sure to mark down where the turtle was so you know exactly where to bring them back to. Same deal. If you see a turtle crossing the road, if you want to help it across the road, go for it, but make sure to bring it in the direction it was walking. And about a week, first class, I was able to do turtle released for the students, so they liked that. And then the next week, they brought in a bird. This bird was like a fledgling, so it was. They found it on the ground. They thought it was injured. It turns out, it was just learning how to fly. Sometimes birds, when they learn how to fly, they get out of the nest, but they're on the ground, and the mom comes and visits them and feeds them whenever relevant, and it learns how to fly, and it's good. As long as a predator doesn't get to it or something. And the kids got a box with the bird in it, put it in the backpack, and we managed to find out where that bird belonged and brought it back to that spot, and we saw the mom visiting a while later, which is good. This isn't, just something that happens to students. It's important to make sure, we care. We care about our community. We care about the people around us. We care about the animals around us. We just want to make sure we're doing things right and caring right. And so I was in Ecuador. It was an ecological study abroad program. We were in the mountains, we were in the rainforest, we were in the coast, Galapagos, you name it, Quito. It was a good time. I mean, it was a tough time too. I kept having this nightmare, I think due to the mountainy roads there, that I kept having a nightmare like our van or bus would just go off the hill. We didn't take that thing often. I did have to Uber to and from school. 1 hour one way, 1 hour back for a lot of it because there were gas riots going on at the time. So we had to take Ubers. Ubers were not technically allowed in the country, so we had to sit up front with the driver. And if I didn't hold a conversation for the entire hour there or the entire hour back, I would puke because of how high altitude it was there and how twisty and turny the roads were. And I did one time. I mean, tipping isn't really a thing down there, but I tipped on Uber well because I had to open that door and puke out of the vehicle as it was moving, because I wasn't holding a conversation. So, dear Murray, I had to practice my Spanish a lot better then. I am Hispanic, Puerto Rican. Didn't grow up with language. The tough time wasn't really the place or the people. I mean, I honestly, how I found community for a lot of my life was through Dungeons and Dragons groups. A lot of people there spoke English as a second language, so I had a good baseline to start it. I would still try to practice my Spanish when I could, but there was a mall across the street that also had classrooms in it. We would find a place in the classroom. I had 12 people in a D&D group, all from the area there in Quito. And it was really wonderful. They were really nice people. I wish I could say I still kept in touch with people, but we had this one game running for so long, all about vampires and whatnot, and I was really proud of bits when you have a big army of vampires come in and they hide in the house because vampires have to be invited in, and then they're all carrying the welcome mat above their head. Got some good laughs from that one. And it was really fun. They were, we all got pizza on the last day. I cried. They cried a little bit. It was nice. It was a nice refuge. I wasn't really that close friends with the people I went with. It was tough. The person leading the trip, he was good at leading the trip. He was really smart about all this stuff, but I don't think he was really looking after our emotional well-being as much. And it's also a time period where I didn't know what I was having were panic attacks. So it was rough. And being somewhere like in the rainforest, in Tipitini, and not having any Wi-Fi, which a month without Wi-Fi, but outside communication. So I'm with people from America who I weren't really close with, rude at times, and it was tough. I literally paid money for a little ounce of Wi-Fi just to download Dune and Harry Potter. Save me. It was an interesting time. I feel like you grow up, you see let's say you want to be an astronaut. I studied astronomy for my beginning of college. You see all these documentaries. You see the ones with Neil deGrasse Tyson and everything. You see the sci-fi movies where the scientist is out in the middle of the desert making a scale model solar system with their grandmother. And they have the NASA posters on the wall. They have the NASA shirt. They're got the cap on before they discover that if you take a paper and you fold it a certain way, that's the closest way between 2 points. And if you're not completely obsessed with a subject, if you're not fully in the midst of it all the time in every way, you're not going to be an astronomer. Now, you go into college, you get the advisor that says you're not going to make it in astronomy. And look, I didn't. I went ecology, but all my friends who stick with it, Jesse, for instance, got the same speech. They wouldn't make it, and they're doing quite well. I'm really proud of them. I'm happy with how far I got there, by the way. I got where I wanted to. Wasn't for me. Move forward. That was the same way down there. If look at all that poesy out there. There is new life to see at every single corner. Every day you see something new. There are howler monkeys moving through the trees. The trees themselves has spikes on them, theoretically, to defend themselves against dinosaurs. You see beetles that have little shield-like shapes. You see toucans with yellow bellies and black stripes, and bullet ants, and ants where you stomp on the ground a lot. They all emerge at once, like that scene in Indiana Jones. And it was awesome, even though the 9-hour whatever hikes, you're looking down at your feet most of the time. Or you get I'm studying bats up in a little water tower and counting them each day, and I see one swatting a mosquito away. That was awesome, but I can't be on for every single moment of the day, man. I need a break. I need to read a book. I need to play a video game. I miss my friends back home. And that's tough. And I couldn't even, again, I graduated ecology. I'm happy with what I did. I did a lot of wildlife stuff. I could not be enamored by every creature every day. I fell down the water tower a little bit, and I definitely limped a little bit longer than I needed to, so I could skip a hike or two. There was even a day where I could swim with penguins. I chose not to, because the water was too cold, and I just spent all week swimming with some cool stuff. I'm okay missing the penguins, honestly. It's okay to miss these things. It's okay to take these breaks. I don't think you need to be on every second of the day. Every moment in the car listening to ologies. Every hike taking a picture on iNaturalist. And that's okay. And the moment I got out of there after taking the boat and the plane, another plane or whatever, and I got back to that mall outside campus, first person I called was my friend Tyler. We were roommates in college. He's doing a lot of awesome film stuff right now. I was his groomsman later on. Not a groomsman, sorry. Groomsman. Best man is the other thing. Groomsman at the wedding. And, okay, maybe he wasn't the first person, calling up parents and all that stuff. But when I called him, it was such a breath of fresh air. For the first time in a month, I could be funny. He was funny. It was just amazing. It felt so good. I could finally... and that was just brilliant. Eventually, I had to I wanted the whole time not to shave the entire time I was over there, just to see how much my beard would grow out in it. And look like a rabbi. And I got back to the States. I spent my time with family. I was back in college, and it was the best time of my life right there. It was fantastic. I was like hanging out with everybody. I got to see my girlfriend. Then she was also had her own trip in Ecuador, and that was a whole separate thing. But I got to be with people and be funny and do things around Boston, and then COVID happens, and that was there was only 2 times I've ever seen everybody on the streets talking about the same thing. Every conversation, you hear the same discussion. The only time I ever saw that was when there was a guy with a knife in the T system somewhere in the tunnels. But not often you hear everybody on the street talking about the same exact thing. And then you look out of the window and it's the morning of, we're kicked out of college, we got to go home, I got to go stay with my grandparents. And I don't see a single person on the streets of Boston, not one car as we're driving out. You see the billboards telling people to mask up and all the thing, which is good. Oof. Then I was back home with my grandparents, with the news channels, with all the other stuff going on. People yelling at the TV. And, my girlfriend Tara was definitely a big refuge and all that too. Thankfully, I'm very thankful for my grandparents for having that refuge too. My parents to call. They knew what it was like living with them. Again, my grandparents are wonderful people, but you live with anybody you haven't lived with before for a little bit. It's tough, And refuge. And my friend Connor, who we spent an entire night, full all-nighter, school the next morning, Zoom, all that, on a fishing simulator game. Now, I'm vegetarian in my life, so I've never been fishing except for maybe one time in a Cub Scout camp, maybe. And we just fished these little artificial fish all night long, and it was nice. We weren't talking for every bit of it, but we were chatting, and it was nice. And that was a good refuge. Being online with friends, and I was, for his first girlfriend in college, I was the first person he told. Number 1, that's when I got my phone, like a text and a phone call. And that made my day. That was fantastic. You love to be a person in that place. It was great. Finding community and refuge can definitely be tough and takes investment and takes time, and you're not only always in a place to find it, but I don't know what the moral is here. I like talking, I like sharing stories. It's hard in front of a camera. I'm usually all up and kinetic. I don't want to move the microphone too much. and I don't know, you get nervous, I get sweaty. You teach all day, and then you suddenly jump up in front of the whole school, and you start, bleh. You know, my neck does a thing where it gets really stiff for some reason when I'm talking in front of a crowd. And like when I had an interview for my last job, it was like a little shaky on the Zoom call. I think whoever was interviewing me thought the camera froze for a moment because my face kind of froze. That's the same people. A couple of weeks later, when I have the in-person interview, on the drive over, just like in Ecuador, I threw up in the car on the way, and my mom was there and helped. You know, we cleaned myself up. We drove back. It was a whole mess. Got tidied up. Said there was a car problem. Rescheduled for later in that day. Got all suited up. Had everything in the car just in case it happened again. Got there. Did a good interview. Got the job later on, thankfully. Oof.
He's ordering me to do it, and I didn't want to do it, but he's ordering me. Now, because he didn't like me either, now he's not ordering everybody else, he's asking for a volunteer. You know? So there's one guy,
since he moved up.
His name was Hudson, poor guy. His name was Hudson, he volunteered. He went down with it's a
To this spot where you said it was too hot?
Huh?
Was this where you said was too hot?
Yeah. Because down in the engine room, but you had to go in the bilges with the water and the pipes, and it was really filthy. So he was asking now, he was ordering me to do that, but now he was asking everybody else, being Mr. Nice Guy, he's asking for a volunteer. So one guy volunteered. He shouldn't have, because it cost him his life.
Never volunteer.
No, they cost him his life, this guy that volunteered. So he volunteered, and he did the job that I was supposed to be doing. And he had it's called in the cars we used to check it, and it was called a timing light. It's where the light, it's almost a pulse that hits a shaft, and it gives you how many turns that shaft is doing, and it gives it to you because it's the light. I don't know how it works, but anyway, he took that and he went into the bilges. The deck plates came up, the steel deck plate, and he was standing on two pipes. And there's water down there from all the machinery. The water collects down there, like I tell you, like a big toilet bowl. And he was there, and he slipped into the water, and that piece of equipment electrocuted him. His earlobes turned blue because we helped pull him out. His earlobes turned blue, his lips turned blue, his eyes rolled back. I'll never forget that. He turned white, and so he got electrocuted. What they were telling us, he had so much voltage going through him from the water that his brain cooked. His brain actually.
And you almost had that job if you didn't rank up the day before.
Right. So then, everybody was saying, of course I was too, that it happened. Now I go up from the engine room, I go up to my compartment, and I'm going down the ladder, because we don't call them stairs, the ladder, and all the guys are sitting around, everybody's sad. And you know your grandpa has always been a wise guy all my life. I said to them, you guys wouldn't be over here, being so sad. You probably would have at a party if I would have been the one that died. Oh no, you probably wouldn't have slipped. That's what they said. Answered me. Oh no, you probably wouldn't have slipped.
Like it's the fault of the person he slipped.
Right now, if I would have slipped, if I would have had that job and I would have electrocuted, we wouldn't be having this conversation here, because I would have never have married her. She married somebody else. We would have never had your father, and your father would never had you. So yeah, those are the things in life. And your grandmother had other things too happen to her. She could have got killed in where she worked. She was working in a place where this guy, she worked with this other lady, and he was very jealous.